Our title landscape, and it may seem like a small area, but for those of you on our various channels, this is a big deal. For many years, for more than 10 years, almost 20 years, the so-called Vermont loophole for getting a title has been a very common subject. In fact, it's been featured on Car and Driver, it's been featured on Jalopnik, it's been featured on Haggerty Insurance. All over the news, they've talked about this Vermont loophole. And the way it worked is, if you are a person who had a vehicle that you purchased and didn't get a title when you bought it, you found out when you went to your state, doesn't matter if you had a bill of sale, notarized, VIN inspection, you couldn't get a title. If you didn't have the old title, which, title looks like this, right? It's a legal document, it's a government document, right? If you didn't have a title certificate from the seller that was properly signed over, you're out of luck. So what people did, they used this loophole called the Vermont loophole. And the way it works is, you would send your bill of sale, apply by mail to the state of Vermont, doesn't matter where you lived, and they would send you a registration. It wasn't a title, but it was a registration. But since Vermont is what's called a non-titling jurisdiction, that registration was their version of a title. So it was equivalent to a title. And then what you do is, when you got that, then you'd bring it to your state to exchange for a title, and you'd be in good shape. Now, some people would actually take the Vermont license plates and put it on their car and drive it around. That's a no-no from day one. But you could switch it over to your state. Well, the process was very popular. People did it all over the place. But here's the bottom line. We've talked about it for many years now, that it wasn't the best way to get a title, and it's a little bit less desirable, but a lot of people still wanted to do it because they wanted to feel like they were getting over or using some kind of loophole. Well, guess what? Now that party is over. State of Vermont has issued a bulletin, out of state registration certification, effective immediately. Completion of this form is required before the DMV processes your transaction, meaning the Vermont DMV. Department will not process these transactions unless the owner can establish a legitimate connection to the state of Vermont, and that the home state laws do not require the vehicle to be registered there. So the Department of Motor Vehicles in your state, so let's say if you live in, I don't know, Idaho, and you want to use this Vermont loophole, Vermont won't accept your application unless they get this form signed by the home state DMV, Idaho DMV, saying that I certify that the state of Idaho does not require residents to register in their state. Make a long story short, unless your state says to Vermont, it's okay for our resident to register out of state and use this loophole, Vermont's not going to do it, right? So you have to sign the form saying that you're not misrepresenting anything, and the DMV in your state has to sign the form saying, yeah, we're cool with this, which a few states may do that. Some states really don't care, but many states have laws on the books that says, look, if you're a resident of our state, Idaho, Indiana, Texas, whatever state you're in, you're required to register in your state. You can't just go bopping around and register anywhere you want, right? Which people could do. Now, Vermont is cracking down on this. Well, they really don't want to, because remember, every time you submitted one of these Vermont registrations, Vermont got sales tax. So they were making millions of dollars off this. So the other states have kind of put the pressure on them. In fact, it says it right in the letter, in concert with other state jurisdictions. So the first 5 words of this letter tells you what happened. The other states said to Vermont, look, you need to knock it off with these Vermont loopholes. So where does that put you? We're going to talk about how to still be able to get a title in a minute. There's actually better ways that already existed. Even before this came out, there were better ways to get a title. And we've talked about that for many years. And we've always recommended using other ways other than Vermont. But even with those other recommendations, many people still said, I want to do Vermont loophole. Didn't matter if the other options were there. This kind of makes it easy. You don't have that option anymore. You can still try if you want, but it's probably going to get rejected. What can you do? Well, you can do 2 things, court ordered and bonded. Now, before you say, I don't want to do those, hold your horses. The reasons you think you don't want to do court ordered or bonded title probably are not legitimate reasons. They may be, but make sure you understand what the actual process is before you dismiss them. A bonded title is really the option that you're supposed to do. Here's an example from the state of Florida. You fill out an affidavit saying that here's the vehicle, year, make, model. Um, I'm the owner. I obtained possession of the vehicle in a certain way. I certify, to my knowledge, or no known encumbrances against the vehicle. And basically, you're signing an affidavit saying, I bought this vehicle fair and square. End of story. And you attach that to a surety bond, which is this form right here, signed by a surety agent. Now, this is where a lot of people get hung up on a bonded title. They think, well, I read in the rules that I have to pay 1.5 times the value of the vehicle. You're missing the point. That's not true. When you get a bonded title, you have to purchase a surety bond in the amount of 1.5 the value of the vehicle. But let's say if you have a $5,000 vehicle, 1.5 times 5,000 is 7,500. People think I'm not paying 7,500 for the vehicle. You don't have to pay that. You have to buy a bond in that amount. The bond is probably only going to cost you $100. It's way less than the fees you have to pay to Vermont, right? For a $7,000 vehicle in the state of Vermont, you would have to pay $500 or $600 to the Vermont loophole. This only costs you $100. It's way cheaper. Plus, you don't have to go through Vermont, wait for that, and then switch it over to your state, right? It's a one-stop shop. So this is one option. And before you get too far into details, there's a lot more information you can get on this at our website at Car Titles. You can also book a consultation at Actual Human to discuss your case in detail. But that's option number one. Option number two is what's called a court order title. And again, before you get into, I don't want to do a court order title, hear me out. We have many conversations with people doing consultations about a court order title, and their objection is, I don't want to go to a whole big court thing. They believe that what they have to do is do some big like Law and Order court case. You don't have to do that, right? A court order title is simply submitting an affidavit to the court in the county where you live, submitting a petition to the court, to the magistrate, to sign that says, declare me the owner of this vehicle. The DMV is not going to give you a title with just a bill of sale. But if you have a bill of sale and a signed letter from a judge saying, give this man a title, give this lady a title, give this person a title, whatever it is, then the DMV has to do that. It's kind of like your get out of jail free card from the court. Do you have to go do a whole big Law and Order court case? No. Usually what you do is you file a petition, also with an affidavit, a letter of non-interest. Again, don't just go by this video. Go on our website, cartitles.com, and it'll have all the instructions. You file it with the court along with a letter of non-interest. The court looks at it, reviews it. If it seems like it makes sense, they sign it and give it to you. You probably don't have to go to court at all. And even if you do, most of the time, all you have to do is go in front of the clerk, raise your right hand, and swear under oath that everything you said is true. You don't have to go into the courtroom. There's no jury. There's no big prosecutor or anything like that. Remember, this is not like a litigation case where it's you against somebody else, plaintiff versus defendant. It's not that kind of case. It's the kind of case where it's you asking for help from the court. The court loves to help people, right? It's a different kind of case than they have to deal with most of the time, which is two people fighting each other. They hate those cases because both people are usually being ridiculous, right? When you go to court for a court order title or a magistrate title, different jurisdictions call it different things, then the court has their one breath of fresh air that they have once a month or once a week. All we have to do is help somebody. There's nobody fighting. This is great. And they're helping you deal with a bureaucracy called the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, that nobody likes. No offense to DMV. You all work hard and you're great, people, and you try to do the best you can, but it's very understaffed, under budgeted, a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of red tape. And it's almost like a punchline. You've seen DMV used as a joke on sitcoms and on movies. The court feels the same way. They feel that the bureaucracy of getting a title is a little extreme, just like you do. You feel like you're getting the runaround. So the court's going to help you. as long as what you're trying to do is legitimate. If you bought the car fair and square, you have a bill of sale, you have a good story, there's no liens, it's not stolen, there's nothing that's kind of sketchy about the vehicle, they're going to help you, right? So use these two methods, bonded title or court order title, before stomp your feet and say, I'm not going to do these, I don't want to do them. Think about a few things. First of all, Vermont is over. You can't do Vermont loophole. Second of all, these things are better than Vermont anyways. They always were, because you don't have to pay tax. And even when clients got a Vermont registration in the past, half the time when you bring it to your state looked at you like you had two heads. What is this? This is not a title, right? And they're not stupid. The Vermont loophole has been around long enough where everybody knows about it. Why do you think that all the states got together and basically strong armed Vermont to say, don't do this? They've been seeing these for years. They don't like it. So half the time when a person would get the Vermont registration, bring it to their state, they would have a problem because their state would, question them or be suspicious. So don't do something that's not the best way to go. Use a more legitimate way to get a title. It might be a tiny bit more work up front, one extra form, one extra piece of paper, one extra thing you have to mail. But in the long run, you're way better off. You don't pay tax. You don't have to worry about getting rejected from your state for a Vermont out-of-state loophole. And it's really the right way to go. If you think it's a lot of work, we can help. Our website has all the resources, free instructions, videos, everything you need to do it. You can do it yourself for free. You don't have to pay us anything, right? You can do this all yourself for free. Cartitles.com. You can see it right there. Okay. In addition, if you want more hands-on, one-on-one consultation, you can go right there, actual human, and you can book a consultation with an actual title agent. In addition, if you want to just pay somebody and say, I don't want to do any of it, I want to have you take care of all the paperwork, again, cartitles.com, you can do that. The most important thing is Vermont loophole's over. There's still people, even in spite of this, that want to try to do it. God bless you. Knock yourself out. You can try to do it. It might work 10% of the time now, maybe 20% of the time, but everybody can make their own informed adult decision. But don't overlook these other methods. The court order title is extremely powerful. We highly recommend that. In fact, in some states and some counties, here is a county in Ohio, they have a very specific packet for petition for court order title. It tells you exactly what to do. It's got all the forms, all the documents. Most counties don't have this, right? Ohio, there's about 5 counties that do this. There are 3,611 counties in the country. Most counties don't have this. Most counties don't even know about it per se, because it's not really a formal thing, a court order title. You have to file the documents in that county. As an example, here's the language. Due to my ability to transfer this title, I am petitioning the court for a certificate of title, right? This is what you're petitioning. I hereby petition the court for an order directing the DMV to issue a title in my name. In support of this petition, here's a statement of fact. Here's a statement of fact. Description of how the vehicle was acquired. It's pretty straightforward. You're basically telling your story, the story that you would tell anybody about how you got the vehicle, begging them to give you a title. You tell it to somebody who actually can do something about it. The DMV can't do anything about it. No matter how good your story is, they can't give you a title unless you have the title, unless you have this, right? They're not giving you a title. It doesn't matter how good your story is. You can swear on a stack of Bibles. They're not allowed to, even if they want to. The only person in the world that can take your story, verbal story, and turn it into a title is the court. So use it to your advantage. They want to help you. So that's enough for today. Check out our websites. If you have more questions, put comments below. We're glad to be